Hi Divas, I'm Lou Landers. I am the Director of Training for Pole and Aerial Divas. I also run the instructor training courses, which is Divas.Ed. I have the amazing Raf here with me today.
Hello.
Raf had done our course at the end of 2024. Raf, can you tell us a bit about your experience doing the course and where you're at now?
It was a great experience. You go into it kind of with this idea of what it is, and it actually ends up being so much more than that. You know, it's more than just learning how to be an instructor. I feel like it's helped me a lot with my own training, like learning how to, like just the anatomy section and how to prevent injuries and, you know, drills to strengthen straddles and things. Like I can see that reflected in my own training as well as in my teaching. I was lucky enough to get hired at Pole Divas Mooney Ponds as an instructor and started in January of 2025. So really just kind of set the ball rolling for a pretty amazing trajectory, I guess.
Yeah, and did you always have teaching pole on your radar?
It was something that like I had pondered for a while and was like, maybe, you know, maybe in the future, maybe once I'm, you know, at this certain point. And then someone just kind of pushed me and said, well, why not now? Like, why not do the course now? Like that little nudge in the right direction. And yeah, I think you realize that you are a lot more competent than you probably thought you were going into it. But two, you're given so many tools to make sure that you're going into the industry as a well-informed, safe instructor. You understand how to work with different learning styles, how to spot tricks safely. You learn what certain things, like common mistakes people make and how to troubleshoot with them. So you're not just going in with your own experience, you have this whole wealth of knowledge from Lou's experiences and the other head instructors' experiences to draw from.
Yeah, and I think that's nice to hear as well, like going out from doing the course and then going almost straight into the industry, teaching straight away, and you found that all that was so useful. So, you know, we talk about class management, personality types, how to deal with different learning styles, and I think, you know, translating that into like real life scenarios can be really different. Like we role play in the course a little bit and we're like, this is what someone's going to do, or someone might say this, and you get into the real world and you're like, I'm prepared for this, you know, however the best I can. However, I now have to be like, you know, doing the real thing and like spotting people, and it can be really challenging. But I think you went from being a student, going straight to Divas.Ed, and then going straight into instructing. So you've got to roll that straight into practice. And I guess your experience from doing like say the role play to the actual physical moment in class can be quite different. And you did shadowing as well.
And
you learn a lot from that.
I think it is quite different, and I think like if you're someone who you would have struggled with different things than what your students are struggling with, you know, like maybe you love inverts, but maybe your students hate inverts. And I think like when you go into the real world, you're like, okay, yeah, like I know that this is potentially a thing, but then when you're actually dealing with it hands-on, you kind of have to be able to adapt to that person, because it's not the same as a very experienced poler pretending to not be able to do an invert. You know, it's someone who really can't. As much as it is different and you have to adapt and you have to like kind of think on your feet, you have all those tools still. Like you have the baseline to then build from as you continue teaching, you know, and it just keeps growing from there.
Yeah, and you have a dance background, so what did you take from the course the most for you personally?
I think because I came in with a dance background, I had a bit of a leg up with certain things that I just kind of took for granted, like counting music or understanding how to spot a turn or like leg extension sort of things, you know, and things that to me, because I came from that background, felt very basic and common sense and, you know, kind of second nature. And then you're in this course with all of these people from all these different backgrounds, and some of them don't have a dance background. And those things that you took for granted, you're seeing in real time how the head instructor is now teaching these instructors in training to do these things. So it's not just like learning how to do it in a hypothetical sense once you're out teaching. It's also practical in the course, seeing that take place, seeing that instructing take place.
How did you find the anatomy section? I listed in on it every time, and I fully nerd out on it myself. What was your take on that?
I loved the anatomy section. I found it so interesting, especially in regards to things like mobility and joint impingement and that sort of stuff. I feel like that's this section, I mean that and conditioning are probably the sections that helped me the most in my personal training, because now I'm like, yes, my shoulder's not supposed to go that way. just because it can doesn't mean it should, and how to work safely within those, you know,
and
massive
it's so
mobile
relevant
moves
to
and all of
it's
that
not
stuff.
just anatomy.
Yeah,
it's
no,
it's relevant to the apparatus that you're training.
Exactly, it's relevant to what we're actually doing, and you know, pole is such a niche sport. It's a very physical sport. And so having anatomy training that was specific to what we do, specific to the conditioning we do, the tricks we do, the dance stuff we do, like it was all, it was incredibly helpful.
Yeah, and we, there's a lot of time and effort put into the back end of these courses. Like we have a portal, right? And I think, I'm very proud, and a lot of us have put time and effort into this. And it's a resource that you guys get for life. Yeah. But I find it's like you go into this course thinking you're just going to be sitting there with a pen and paper, but you're going in there with all this pre-learning, videos on tricks, conditioning, dance, warm-ups, all these things. And then you've got homeworks and assessments, so it feels like you're, going into like a real course. Yeah. Did you find that helped you prepare you really well going in?
Yes.
Being an anxious person myself, I want as much information before I go into a space.
Absolutely. I think the, teacher's pet in me came out a little bit, where I was like, I want to know everything and have the answer to every question and really prepared. And all of that was there for me to do that, to feel pretty confident going in. You have the anatomy rundown before the anatomy section, so you're like, yes, I understand what the difference is between a retraction and a protraction, or external and internal flexion, all of that sort of stuff. And then you get to see it in real time. You get to go through it in real time. You get to ask your questions.
Feel it in your body.
Same with tricks. You know the tricks. You've learned the tricks. You've seen them taught. Then you have like the video breaking down how it's taught and why it's taught that way. And then you get to put all of that into practice yourself, and it's just kind of this, it's just like the layers building on top of each other, so that you have this really strong foundation for when you actually step into a role teaching. Yeah,
and going off the portal as well, we have the assignments and homework, and then we also have the final assessments. And I love this part because it's the shadowing, which we touched on just before. And the shadowing is the part where you actually get to go out and observe these classes, and you watch it from a completely different perspective, because you're like, I've done a beginner class before, that's how you started, but then you go back in and watch a beginner class and you're like, oh my gosh, and watch it from how that instructor is troubleshooting with that student and how they're working through different scenarios. So I think having the shadow program, I'm hoping it did benefit you and you learn a lot from it, but there's also other assignments there, putting your own conditioning together. We're trying to make it industry standard, so you think that going to any pole class you do have a safe warm-up, a conditioning section, safely teaching tricks and being spotted correctly, and your dance and your breakdowns. For you, with your final assessment program doing shadowing, did you really enjoy that as well?
I did, yeah. It's an interesting change to step into a classroom thinking as an instructor instead of thinking as a student, you know? And like, I think that continues on. Like, even now when I go to classes for myself, I'm like, that was a cool way to teach. That was a cool way to cue this, you start tuning into that a bit more. But when you first do it, it's kind of a little bit mind-blowing how much is going on that you didn't pick up on, how instructors, change the way they're communicating with someone to make it more, connect better with that specific student. Or like the different cues, like it might be all meaning the same thing, but the different ways that someone will say this same thing so that it can connect with different people. And then you pick up those things for yourself. Someone said, like, squeeze the lemons under your armpits to me once, and I was like, that made it make sense. Like, it's locked in, and I reference it in every single beginner class I teach.
Ladybug under
the ladybug under the back. That's another one. Every time I will, there's these things that I've heard other instructors use that I now use in nearly every class I teach.
Because you're a student picking that up as the cue, going, I'm going to remember that now.
Exactly.
It's rememberable.
Yeah, exactly. So I think shadowing was really helpful because, like you said, we've all taken a beginner's class, we've all taken the dance classes, but when you go in with that mindset of like, okay, what is the instructor doing? How are they interacting with the students? Instead of just, that's a cool trick. It's a whole different thing,
Yeah. And I think, the time spent in person as well, like doing the actual course, they're big, long days.
Yeah.
It's jam-packed. Like, how did you feel that for you? Like, were you like, bruh?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a bit overwhelming, I think, in some regard, because it's so much information, and they're long days, and they're physical days, but also really mental, it requires a lot of mental engagement.
Yeah.
You definitely finish the weekend and you're like,
it's a lot.
Okay, and you kind of just need to decompress and sit with it and absorb it a little bit. But it's also it's a really exciting process.
That end day especially.
Yeah, and you're so interested in what you're doing. It is a long day, but while you're in it doesn't necessarily feel long. It's more that when you stop at the end of the day, you're like, my God, that was a lot. But when you're in it, you're just kind of in it.
Yeah, and I think that's the good thing about having the resources on the portal as well. You'll revisit all these things too. And obviously I take these, Divas.Ed sessions a lot, and I love the final assessment days. I love watching people get to that point where I've seen them from day one to day 4, and it's just this growth through this time and that journey. And it feels like it goes like you're this little family for these, you know, small couple of weeks, and all of a sudden I'm like, it's the last day. And the change from day 1 to 4 is like phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you feel that, but I get super like excited about that, and I just love seeing people change. And you probably felt that for yourself, going day 1, like, and then like day 4, you're like, whoa, when we're dancing at the end. It's such a like, it's rewarding for me, for you to see, like, to see that, but for you to feel that on that last day, you're like, celebrate.
I mean, the last day is definitely so nerve-wracking. You're out there, you know, this is your chance to show what you've learned, and you just don't want to mess it up. I definitely remember, like, my voice being trembly as I'm trying to call things.
This is my foot.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I'm like, put your left foot in the air, and it's on the right one. I don't know, you know. But there's just so much energy, and you're experiencing other people's warm-ups and like their trick teaching, and you know, all this stuff. And yeah, by the end of it, it's kind of this weird, like, this weird high you're on. You're like, oh my God, I did it! Like, I've done it! I made it through.
It fills my soul so much, and everyone's just so excited. And it's like, I know everyone's nervous going into that day, but by the end of it, it's just this energy that's like contagiously explosive, if that's 2 words you can put together, you know. But like, I don't know, I think, you know, these courses, you know, like I said, industry standard, and I feel like we're helping the pole community, not just Divas. Like, obviously we've got like over 34, 35 people employed within the industry, different studios all around, and I think that's fantastic that, you know, we can share the knowledge and love within the industry and keep people safe, and people safe, having fun, and keeping the love for pole going as well.
Absolutely,
that's the main thing about it.
Honestly, can't recommend it enough. It was the start of a really great journey, and I think that it will be for pretty much anybody who does it.